Black Dog. What's up, man? Here, man. Now, I've been following you for a long time, brother. And it look like you're starting to do good for you.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Thank you for tuning in to another segment with Radio Dario. We did something a little different this week. We did not have our live episode this week, but what we're going to be doing today is we're going to do a little game picks for the upcoming NFL playoffs. So the topic today is just going to be strictly football. And then we're also going to do a little reaction to Nick Tiers that I watch every week. So I'll do a reaction video after we pick our game picks and kind of see how their tiers is lining up and how the committee decided versus my picks. So what we're going to do, we're going to jump right into it. Let's go ahead and bring these game picks up. As you guys can see down at the bottom of the screen here, you have us scoring 2 extra points from the last time we did one of these. As you know, we did game picks. The injury to Damar Hamlin happened, so we changed up the episode. We didn't review those game picks and those choices. But out of the 3 games, one of them didn't happen, the Bengals versus Bill. But in the other 2 games, I did get both of those right. So our record is 15-6 on the point spread here against the away team. So we're doing pretty well there. But game picks, let's jump right on into it. We have a good amount of games coming up this weekend that I'm really excited to sit down and watch. Let's just go through them. Let's talk about them. I'm also going to do a timer to keep myself, not going long-winded on the topics or anything. So let's go ahead and go right into that. Let's start the timer. And we are golden. So first game we have is Seahawks versus 49ers. All right. So we have Geno Smith having a really, really great year for the Seahawks, which was super surprising when they said Geno Smith broke the record for most passing yards in a season with Russell Wilson's time there. I know we got the extra game with the season, playing 17 games in the season rather than 16 that they did in the past. But that's still a surprising stat to see that Geno Smith has broken the passing record that Russell Wilson had. Let Russ cook was a major thing there, but as we're seeing, maybe we've overrated Russell Wilson and what we've seen from him in his time with the Seahawks. 49ers, they have an amazing defense. Nick Bosa's actually my pick for Defensive Player of the Year in the NFC. I mean, they have probably one of the best run defenses in football. I think they ranked 2nd in rush defense. And let me check my notes here. Pass defense, the 49ers rank 21st in pass defense, but I mean, with that pass rush, Javarius Ward is having one of the best years he's ever had. This makes this a really great game. The Seahawks are really great at passing the ball. They've, as you look at their stats, they're ranked 10th in passing, pretty average the rest of the way. But you got 2 good teams going into it. I have a lot of high expectations for Geno Smith going into this game. And Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, not so irrelevant. Everybody's made that joke, but I'm going to tell a completely different joke. As good as this team is with McCaffrey and that defense, his play is irrelevant to me. And that's why I am picking the 49ers to win that game. Picking the 49ers to win that game between the Seahawks and them because like I truly believe is Brock Purdy's play is irrelevant at this point, Mr. Irrelevant. I believe that defense is just too good. Nick Bosa is going to be in there wreaking havoc. Christian McCaffrey, you give him the ball, find ways to put the ball in his hand, and great things are going to happen. All right, let's reset the timer. I reset it to 5 minutes. Let's take it back down to 2. And we're going to talk about our next game. You got the Chargers versus Jaguars. Let's go ahead and start that clock. So, Chargers versus Jaguars. looking at these teams, we got a little bit something different going on here. You have the Chargers quarterback Justin Herbert, who a lot of people been comparing him to like a robot because he just seems to happen to just find the open receiver every time. He's very methodical when he drops back there and gets the ball out. But as we seen in the last game of the season, the coach made a very questionable decision in playing his starters, which a lot of people fear. At the end of the season, you see so many teams not play their starters when they don't have an impact to be able to grow their seeding in the playoffs or possibly fall down in the seeding in the playoffs and not make it. He played his starters and Mike Williams got hurt. I mean, this has been an injury-prone team all year, and losing Mike Williams could hurt your overall chances in this playoffs, especially with as good as the teams that we've had. You have a lot of up and down year for Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars, but the prince that was promised is here. And I know we're kind of, I mean, this is honestly going to be, to me, the most competitive game in the first round, in my opinion. It's going to be the most competitive game in the first round with the Chargers and Jaguars. I'm looking at what the Jags are averaging on the season. They're pretty much average all the way across the board, with their pass defense being in the bottom 5 in the NFL. So that's worrisome, especially with Justin Herbert finishing second in passing yards on the season, and the Chargers ranking third in passing yards overall as a team. But one thing the Chargers haven't done too well this year for me is run the ball. And I think when it comes to this time of the season, running the ball is so crucial and effective. That's why I am going with the Jaguars. I'm going with the Jaguars to win this game. I think the prince that is promised is going to have a really solid game out there, and he's going to start taking his name to the next level and start commanding some respect with some of the best quarterbacks in the league. And that starts this weekend against the Chargers and against somebody I think he's going to be compared to on par with next season, Justin Herbert. All right, reset that clock. All right, so we have the Bills versus the Dolphins. Dolphins versus the Bills, however you want to go into it. So looking at this game, you have the Dolphins, who were ranking the top 5 in passing yards. Again, not that great of a running team in the bottom half of the league as far as running the ball. Not really that great against the pass, but their rush defense is top 10 in the NFL. With the Bills are, to me, in my opinion, the best constructed team in the playoffs. And that is even over the Eagles, in my opinion. They're top 10 in passing, top 10 in rushing, top 10 in pass defense, and they're top 5 in rush defense. I mean, they're the best. They're the best team across the board in football to me. The Dolphins, you saw the Dolphins beat the Bills earlier on in the season in that game that just seemed like it was so hot that people were having trouble just breathing and needed oxygen masks and everything. Excuse me. That people needed oxygen masks and everything just because it was so hot and it was hard to really, it was a really shows your conditioning game. But you saw the Dolphins come up big in that game. But the thing that's different is you don't have Tua. Teddy Bridgewater, your backup, isn't playing, and you're down to Skylar Thompson, who is expected to start in this game against the Bills. And I just told you the Bills stat line across the board, they're the most complete team in football to me. I don't see how the Dolphins can get this done with Skylar Thompson leading the charge. You have weapons to make it a game, and Jalen Waddle, which he got banged up in that last game, and Tyreek Hill, Gesicki, all the weapons the Dolphins has, but I just don't see Skylar Thompson being able to lead them to a win over the Bills. And for that reason, that is why I have picked the Bills to win that game. So, going into the next game, we have the Dolphins Dolphins. We have the Giants versus the Vikings. So much like the last game, the Giants did something a little bit different. They couldn't move up or down, so they played their backups, and they gave the Eagles a really great game at the end of the season. But the thing that confuses me about the Giants is they had a really great season. They're talking about extending Daniel Jones and all these things, but they ranked 27th in passing this year. They ranked in the top 5 in rushing. Saquon Barkley had a solid year, but they ranked 15th in passing defense and they ranked 26th in rushing defense. The only thing they do solidly is running the football. But what did I just say earlier? I said running the football is so crucial in the playoffs. It never fails every time. And the Vikings ranked 2nd in passing this year, overall in passing yards, but they ranked 28th in rushing. They ranked 31st in pass defense, and they ranked 19th. So if there was going to be an upset this weekend, I can see it happening this week. With this game, the Giants versus the Vikings, I can see the upset happening there because the thing the Giants aren't that great at, the Vikings aren't that great at stopping it anyways. The thing that they're really great at is the run defense. Well, they're not even really great at run defense. They're ranked 19th in run defense. But the Giants are really effective at it. But I don't believe in Daniel Jones. I still don't understand why they're talking about an extension for Daniel Jones and the great year he had. I haven't seen it. He still looks like Daniel Jones to me. What is the difference? What has changed? So with that, I know I'm not being very exciting with my pick so far because I haven't picked the upset. If there was going to be an upset, I would pick this game and the Giants, but I don't see it happening. I don't believe in Daniel Jones. So I'm going with the Vikings. But if I had to pick an upset so far with the games we've gone through, it's got to be this one. It's got to be this one because the Vikings, they've won a lot of close games this year, and they lost some blowouts. So a team that I feel like is overrated going into the playoffs is the Vikings. Reset the timer. All right. Next game we got to talk about Ravens versus Bengals. Go ahead and start the clock. So, one thing I want to talk about the Ravens is they're a really great run team. Earlier on in the season, you saw Lamar Jackson. That's always their calling card. They run the ball well with Lamar Jackson. They get the running backs involved. They do a lot of option plays. They keep you on your toes to try to read option, try to figure out how you can stop him and slow him down. And Lamar Jackson is so dynamic when he gets out that pocket and puts pressure on you. And then he still is an effective passer. He's not the best passer, like I said earlier on in the season. One of the things that I just want to see Lamar Jackson get better at is throwing the out route, because I don't think he throws the out route outside the numbers. I don't think he throws outside the numbers too well, but that's one thing I want to see him get better at. But Lamar Jackson isn't playing in this game. They said Lamar Jackson is doubtful for this game. If Lamar Jackson was playing in this game, I could ride with the Ravens and see the upset. But the Bengals, I can't remember the last time they won a game. I can't remember the last time they lost a game at this point. They've been winning a lot of games, even beating my Chiefs. And when it comes to it, as far as the AFC, the only team that really even worries me is the Bengals, because Joe Burrow is that guy. Even him making that statement, the championship window is open as long as I'm playing. That's some ballsy stuff to say, and that's the kind of confidence you need to be successful. Although, as my father would say, it takes 11 people to play the game. You ain't out there on that field by yourself. It takes 11 people on both sides of the ball to play that game. So he definitely, he's got to rely on his teammates. And that's the one thing I worry about them going into this playoffs is they have some offensive linemen that are hurt. And Joe Burrow, Joe Cool he kind of overcomes, and he's overcome a lot in his career, and pass rush doesn't seem to really be a factor for him when he's getting sacked. I mean, he was the most sacked quarterback last year and broke records since David Carr had been sacked. And, I mean, Joe Burrow still led them to the Super Bowl. So, I'm not too worried about those injuries for that. So, for that, I picked the Bengals to win that game. So, yeah, like I said, it's not too exciting. I'm not picking any upsets so far. But this is just how I see it going. So, we got, I believe this is the last game. On the docket here. You got Cowboys versus Buccaneers. Let me start my timer. So, let's look. Cowboys are ranked 18th in passing, 8th in rushing, 8th in pass defense, and 21st in rush defense. Buccaneers are ranked, I believe, 5th in they're ranked 5th in passing, dead last in running the ball, 10th in pass defense, and 15th in run defense. So if you look at that, their defense is actually, Buccaneers defense actually looks pretty solid this year. And even they're moving the ball. But the one thing that I've seen a lot with the Buccaneers this year is they get into third down a lot. And again, they don't really convert third down that well. You've seen a lot of drops from the receivers this year, which I'm super surprised with Mike Evans dropping some of those passes. I mean, he's had a tough year as well. But here they are in the playoffs with the tough year, with the offensive linemen that are down, with Brady getting sacked more than he's probably ever had in his career. They've made the playoffs. Where Cowboys, we seen them have a really great year with a backup quarterback, and Dak Prescott came back and continued to jolt energy into that team. Micah Parsons, for the first half of the season, was my defensive player of the year in the NFC. He's kind of tailored off, but I think there's teams doing a little bit things differently inside their blocking packages to try to keep him in check and contained. But I think he's still having an impact on the passing games and just rushing the other quarterback, which with that offensive line the Bucs is putting out there, I worry about that. Them protecting Brady with Micah Parsons, and Micah Parsons is due a big game on the national stage. The secondary for the Cowboys has been way better than I thought they look on paper. So it looks like statistically that the Cowboys are set up pretty well to compete against the Buccaneers and get this win against the Bucs. So for that reason, I still didn't pick them. I don't pick against Tom Brady. You let Tom Brady into the playoffs with a losing record? I mean, didn't they play earlier on in the season and the Buccaneers beat the Cowboys? I think it's going to be, I think Tom Brady lives rent-free in a lot of people's heads. He still does. Even with a losing record, you just let him walk into the playoffs. Tom Brady was third in the league in passing yards. He threw for 4,600 yards this year. They're still moving the ball. Yeah, they've been down a lot, and there are a lot of empty calories there. But he's still Tom Brady. And because he's still Tom Brady, it's hard to pick against him on the stage. And honestly, as much as I like the 49ers, if the Buccaneers are going up against the 49ers right now in this round, I pick Tom Brady. It's hard to pick like Brock Purdy over somebody that's proven to do it. I don't think Tom Brady's fallen off the cliff yet. And Cowboys, y'all gotta bring y'all A game. You can't play around with Brady. You play with the GOAT, you might get burned. So that is all I have for those game picks. I am gonna do a reaction to Nick's tiers, so stick around, continue to watch the segment, and do a reaction to Nick tiers with me. Let's see here. All right, got YouTube booted up here.
It's 4 o'clock. You know what that means.
Let's see.
Last night, ensconced in a New York hideaway, a select committee of literati, academics, and the sports intelligentsia at large Well, they met to learn, fight, and toil. To burn that midnight oil.
I love Wild's intro to Nick Tiers. Wild might deserve some kind of award for his intro to Nick Tiers because it's always like on point. Like it wouldn't be Nick Tiers without a Wild's introduction.
To concoct what has become known around the world as the best segment in all of sports television. It's my honor. It's my privilege to say it's time for Nick's Tears.
Thank you so very much, Kevin Wilds, and thank you to the committee members who stayed extra late last night as all 32 teams are represented in this week's Tears. We will start with a particular group. This group is called Sad Offseason. So they're in the, it's not good. You don't have picks, or you don't have cap space, or you don't have a coach, or your quarterback might hold you hostage, whatever it is. It's not going to be a fun offseason for these teams. Miss the playoffs, the next few months ain't going to be great. Now, two other groups, purgatory and exciting offseason. Purgatory is very simple. You're going to be fine. And guess what? Next year, you're going to be the same as this year. You're going to win 7, 8, 9 games. You're going to be alive to the playoffs. Your games are going to be not that exciting, and we'll rinse and repeat until you get real quarterbacks in town. Exciting offseason.
I actually think with Mike Tomlin's coaching, like he deserves some credit for what he did with the Steelers this year. But I also think Kenny Pickett's going to come back better next year. And that division should worry about the Steelers. Because when a better quarterback and the coaching and the way that this team shouldn't have been even in the playoff race at the end of the season. And yet they had a chance to make it. So I think there's a lot of credit due to that coaching staff of the Steelers for them even being in the conversation, especially where they didn't have a quarterback. And in this league, you need a quarterback. And I believe Kenny Pickett's going to have a better year next year and can develop. And I don't think Kenny Pickett's going to be on the level of your Justin Herberts or your Pat. I don't even. That's insulting even for me to bring Pat Mahomes' name up in the conversation with Kenny Pickett. But I think Kenny Pickett will progress and be a solid quarterback for them to be able to get into the playoffs. So they need to watch out. That's going to be a good division to watch next year with the Browns, see how Deshaun Watson do, the Steelers, Bengals, and Ravens. I'm curious to see what happens with Lamar Jackson. I'm pretty sure they'll franchise tag him. But all right, let's get back on with Nick Tiers. I'll try not to cut into
some of those are the worst teams in the league, but they got dollars galore. They got top picks in the draft. They might have attractive coaching vacancies. They might have attractive quarterback openings, all of those things. But unfortunately, they all missed the playoffs. Now to the Tiers.
I see a lot of, my friend's a Raiders fan and he wants CJ Stroud. I don't think they're going to get CJ Stroud. I think he's going to end up going before the Raiders pick, which I don't want them to get CJ Stroud. I hear a lot of them talking about Jarrett Stidham and they like Jarrett Stidham. I hope they keep Jarrett Stidham. Like, as a Chiefs fan, I'll gladly see Jarrett Stidham. We're not worried about Jarrett Stidham in the slightest bit.
Bottom of the Tiers. Politely decline. We're going to RSVP with regret to the playoffs this year. We appreciate the invite, and unfortunately, we just can't make time to get our teeth kicked in on national television in front of 30 million people. But otherwise, we'd love to be there.
It's unfortunate what happened with the Dolphins, because I think the Dolphins could have really gave the Bills a really great game if they had Tua. And I'm really concerned about what's going on with Tua, because I mean, he had, 3 or 4 concussions this year? I mean, you have doctors saying that he probably shouldn't even play the sport anymore. I'm just worried about what's going on with Tua, I mean, the Dolphins might need to be in the market for a quarterback this offseason. And Tua might need to be cashing in on an insurance policy. I don't know if he has one for his health, but he might need to look for something to do after football now.
Next, these two teams didn't make the playoffs. Oh, they are in better position than two teams that did. Trendy 2023.
Lions had a great year, and Jared Goff secretly had a really great year. I think Jared Goff should be discussed in the same conversation as Geno Smith. Everybody was talking about the season Geno Smith had. I think Jared Jared Goff had just as great of a season. And Jets keep being linked to Derek Carr, which I don't think Derek Carr is a bad quarterback, but I don't think he's top 15. I don't think he's top 15. He might be 15. He might be right there in the middle.
I like this. The Lions go into the offseason feeling great, coming off a win. The Jets, while they're going to the offseason on quite the losing streak, feel like we're a quarterback away.
Lions packed the Packers up. That's what they did. They done packed Aaron Rodgers up. I was so happy to see that.
Mark it down, America. Place your futures bets now. These two teams will be, come July, you're going to turn on television and you're going to hear Peter Schrager say, I know it sounds crazy, the Detroit Lions are going to make the conference championship game.
If the Jets would have continued to have the year that they were trending on at the beginning of the season and made the playoffs, I think Sauce Gardner should get some really great consideration for Defensive Player of the Year in the AFC. Because as a rookie, he was locking some boys up. I mean, he's different. Sauce Gardner is different. Like, he was very impressive this year.
It's going to be, both of those teams are going to be trendy teams for next season and feel better about their years even though they missed the playoffs. All right, now we go to very different off seasons. So both of these teams are going to lose this weekend, and that will begin very different off seasons.
I agree. That's what I said, and I picked both of those teams. Well, I picked the Seahawks losing too, didn't I? Yeah, I picked Seahawks and Dolphins losing. I picked the Cowboys and Giants losing. We're on the same page, Nick.
Cowboys losing this weekend will mean, are they firing the coach? What is Dak's future? Another disappointing season.
If the Cowboys lose, McCarthy will be fired.
Giants are going to lose this weekend, and they're going to say, Brian Dable should be coach of the year. We love Daniel Jones more than we ever have. We had a wonderful season.
And I don't get that. I don't understand why everybody is loving what Daniel Jones did this year. I still think he looked like Daniel Jones. I mean, he didn't have as many turnovers as he did previously, but he didn't light the fire. I mean,
it's very odd. It gives you an idea of where expectations are and whether or not you meet them. But they're both NFC East teams. They're both wild card teams. They're both losing this weekend, but they have very different off seasons. High variance. All right, now, in fairness to the committee, when we met, there was not all this reporting that Lamar Jackson was unlikely to play this weekend. This ranking was assuming Lamar could play, in which case both of these teams could lose this weekend, and both of them could make the conference championship game. The variance for these teams.
I got both of these teams losing in my game picks as well. Mainly the Ravens. I can see the Ravens playing the Bengals well if Lamar Jackson was there. Without Lamar Jackson there, I just can't entertain it. And the Chargers, I think the Chargers and Jags, I said this in the game picks, I think they're going to be the best game to see this wild card weekend. And I can see the Chargers winning. But I think this is the turnaround moment for the Jags, and they realize that they do have a top tier quarterback. Not top tier, but Trevor Lawrence ends up start getting his name mentioned in the same breath of that next tier, right underneath the top tier.
Is higher than anyone else in the postseason, and that's not shocking at all if they lose this weekend, and not shocking at all if they win a couple playoff games. Kevin Wildes.
Yes?
You don't get much right on a daily basis, but one thing you do is every time I ask you this, what are these not?
Mr. Consistency. Notwithstanding.
That's really good.
That was perfect timing. I love Wildes. Wildes, this is like my favorite show to watch on sports. Like Nick Wright, Broussard, Wildes, like they have really great chemistry. Like I love Wildes. Wildes is hilarious.
Yeah. Notwithstanding.
Mr.
That is correct, sir. So, and you know what? The committee is proud of the fact that it feels like, whether you guys know it or not, its football logic has burrowed deep into your brain, all of America. Because America doesn't respect the standings the way it once does. Or else the 13-win Minnesota Vikings would be considered contenders. True. Yet in all the football media world, you find one person who has them getting to, much less winning the Super Bowl. Unfortunately, however, you guys are still tied to the standards enough that while 13 wins doesn't impress you, 14 wins, oh man, that's the best team in football. It's the same. It's the same. They're both round 2 and out teams that had nice seasons. Brew, once again, you look like you bit into a bad brew.
Because this is horrible, Nick. Maybe the committee didn't hear. Jalen Hurts is back.
Is he though?
Yeah, he's back.
Maybe you did.
He came, it worked out perfectly.
Oh,
he came out, he got the rust off. They threw the football a lot. He didn't run like usual because he's still healing. But now he's got 2 weeks. I might, this is still too low, but I might feel a little better about your tiers with the Eagles if they were playing this weekend. But they got 2 weeks to get his shoulder right. They will be fine. And how in the world you put them on the same level as Minnesota? Minnesota's got one of the worst defenses in the league. Philly might have the best. So no, they're I don't even know who's above them, but I haven't seen Jacksonville anywhere.
Well,
I haven't seen several other teams that they should be ahead of. Okay. They got as good a chance to get to the Super Bowl as any team in the league. Right. Yeah, well, I said it.
It's a little embarrassing for you that you don't know who's above them because there's only 6 teams left. You probably should have been able to figure that one out. As far as you asserting that it all went great for Philadelphia, listen, I wasn't in Nick Sirianni's pregame meeting, but I don't think when he was talking to the guys, he's like, all right, guys, here's the plan. We're going to have to play the full 60 minutes and survive an onside kick to beat the JV Giants. But maybe, listen, Sirianni's a different type of cat. Maybe that is what he was going for. Next, couple of goats.
Oh, my gosh.
What?
You have the greatest football player, the greatest.
He got the prince that was promised labeled as a GOAT.
Player in the history of the NFL and the greatest player in the history of Georgia high school football, right alongside each other. This is true. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. You know what? And the greatest player, Herschel Walker, was pretty good. And the greatest player in the history of Clemson University, and soon to be the greatest Jacksonville Jaguar with respect to our friend Fred Taylor. So here's the deal about these two teams. Neither one has any business being here. Both of their defenses have underachieved what they were expected to do before the year. Both of the teams went through long losing streaks at different points of the season. However, despite all that, through the fortitude, ingenuity, and outright talent of their quarterbacks, they find themselves hosting playoff games. And don't blame them that they're hosting playoff games. That's just the format. They won divisions. That's the number. Greg, you show up every year. What do they say? Number one goal, win the division. They did it. Next, frightening but flawed. So these two teams are undeniably frightening.
How are they flawed?
Why do I say flawed? So for the Bills, the Josh Allen red zone turnovers even this week continued.
Yeah, Josh Allen has had some questionable
turnovers.
turnovers.
Spot, an alarming rate in a game that they found themselves trailing
that's
at
what
some
you get
point
with
in the second half
gunslingers.
to the New England
You got to take
Patriots,
the good with the
despite a kick
bad.
return touchdown. And for the
Pat
Bengals,
has some of them too.
And by the way, also the Bills secondary is a big question mark at this point of the season as well. And for the Bengals, didn't love how they ended the season. Didn't love how they conducted themselves in that final game, and don't love some of the injuries they are currently dealing with at the worst time of the year. However, they are still one of the 4 best teams in the league.
I don't see how that's a flaw.
Juggernaut. Pete Carroll said it.
Yeah, they were very hyped at how they ended the season.
San Francisco 49ers have every single thing you want in a football team, with the exception of an experienced quarterback. Luckily, the rookie quarterback is playing the best of any first-time starter since Kurt Warner or Patrick Mahomes. So they've got everything they need, and if you believe, like the committee believes, that Philadelphia is going home after the first playoff game, well, then they also have a de facto home field advantage.
Like I said, I'm still not completely sold on. Brock Purdy's having a decent year. I mean, he hasn't lost a game. Been moving the ball and making some great decisions with the ball in his hand. But I really think just the team overall makes, like I said, his play irrelevant. But yeah, 49ers look really good. But like I said, that experience is going to come into play at some point. And I said, if he was going up against the Buccaneers, I probably would ride with Tom Brady. Just me.
And that, of course, leaves one team. And while Brew might not yet know who it is, the rest of America does. They have the process
Chiefs.
of elimination. Favorites while rebuilding.
Why are you rebuilding?
So,
But- Favorites while
the
rebuilding.
fourth most snaps played by rookies this year was the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, we had a
Chicago
lot
and
of rookies on the
Houston were
defense.
teams ahead of them. Rebuilding. They are top 10 in off-season resources, cap space, and picks, and all of that. And yet they find themselves with the best record in football. And they find themselves there despite the fact that I know nobody talks about it, but the Chiefs' #1 receiver hasn't played in 2 months, and their #1 running back hasn't played in 6 weeks. So how?
Is he trying to say McCole Hardman is our #1 receiver? And he's trying to say Clyde Edwards-Helaire is our. I'm gonna let you get that one, Nick. I'm gonna let you get that one.
That's because they have obviously the league MVP and obviously the best coach in football, and that obviously with the best record makes them the favorites. Greg Jennings, how are you, sir?
I'm tired of the committee, to be honest. I'm really getting disgusted with the committee and how they alter the top. Like, it's either you're the favorites, don't put a caveat of while rebuilding. Like, is the committee really digging that deep to where they look at the roster and say, oh, they have more rookies now all of a sudden? Let's say that they're a better team. Look, the Bengals, the Bengals are the hottest team in the AFC. Can we put up this full screen, please, so we can please show the committee and Nick, who's the voice of the committee, what we're talking about since week 9.
Those numbers look
at these
identical.
numbers. They're 8-0. Oh, and I'm gonna jump straight down to the bottom. Cincinnati beat Kansas City 27-24 in week 13. Who's atop the committee or atop the tiers somehow. Look at the team points per game. Up, Cincinnati again. Completion percentage. Look, Joe Burrow. I mean, I'm trying to figure out because you had him flawed. Yeah. Where's the flaw?
Well,
because you didn't like the way they finished the season.
I'll tell you why. Can I tell you the truth, Greg Jennings? I had a feeling you might pick the Bengals, and they have one glaring flaw that I didn't want to mention until you had already spoken. So now I will tell you, their right tackle is done for the year, and their right guard, Alex Kappa, is in a walking boot. So that's 2/5 of their offensive line. What have we seen the one way to get to the Cincinnati Bengals? Through an offensive line.
I'm going to just say, I mentioned that in my game picks as well, but Joe Burrow has also proven last year with bad offensive line that he got them to the Super Bowl. So, I mean, I don't know. He's Joe Cool. He's cool under pressure. Even that play that they beat us on, like, to keep maintaining possession, there was pressure there, and he just delivered a strike to Higgins any dang way. And there was a corner all draped on Higgins. I mean, he's Joe Cool. I don't think it matters.
Line that all of a sudden looks a hell of a lot like it looked last year when Joe Burrow was the most sacked quarterback since David Carr in NFL history.
And what did they do last year?
Right, they overcame it last year. They overcame it last year.
And just so we can understand and put it into context, where did they have to go to overcome it?
They had to go to Kansas City.
And what did they do?
They beat Kansas City.
Okay.
Just so we, hold on, just real quick before we go to Kevin Wilde. Just so I understand it, Greg Jennings, who is advocating for Cincinnati Bengals, you have them losing in round 2, correct?
We're talking
Does he have them losing to the Bills?
They're the hottest team to finish the regular season.
He was got them losing to the Bills.
You just ran the full marathon. You were winning, and the next thing you know,
we've got the Bills.
Look, he's trying. He caught you. He got you. He got you to teeter over here and look.
He deflected.
Kevin Wilde.
All right, I'm going to say that the Giants are underrated. Here's why. Reason number 1. Experience overrated. I know it's like, well, it's Daniel Jones, it's Saquon Barkley. It's not my take, it's Brian Daboll's take. Take a listen. Thank you. So I don't want to hear anything about the Giants not having enough playoff experience. Reason number 2, ready and rested. Rested almost everybody last week and still gave the Eagles the business.
That's true.
Yeah, well, granted, but they still gave them the business.
Okay.
In their last meeting with the Vikings, they had more yards, more passing yards, more rushing yards, more yards per play.
I forgot about that
Vikings
game.
ended up winning the game with a long field goal, but the Giants were right in that
that's
game.
what the Vikings, that's their theme this year.
Feeling good.
That's the Vikings theme this year. They win close games.
We're getting old Saquon Barkley back, and maybe, just maybe,
against a Vikings pass defense that is not good and letting even Mac Jones have career numbers, maybe Kenny Galladay
ranked 31st.
could come back.
They are really
maybe
bad.
not. But it is
Almost
a
the worst in the
highlight.
NFL.
And Kenny Galladay took care of the bill I read in the New York Post in their playoff party. Maybe Kenny Galladay got unlocked something. And just to let you know, thinking of a man of integrity, I put a little 1-unit bet on Kenny Galladay. Anytime touchdown score. So the Giants underrated. Early upset feel. Giants in Minnesota.
That would be an upset alert. That would not embarrass you like the Seahawks one that you're thinking.
I don't know.
But listen,
I gotta see that. I gotta see his upset alert.
Because we don't have time. But I don't know if America noticed, the top 8 teams of the tiers are going to be the 8 teams remaining after the first week. The Giants aren't going to be one.
Oh, I didn't even pay attention.
Okay, coming up next. Good tiers, though, overall.
I thought they were great.
Steph Curry's back, and so are we in 4 minutes. First things first.
Well, that was good. Hey, I need to find a way to get my way on the committee. Get on that committee board. But appreciate you guys tuning into another, I guess, segment of Radio Dario since I didn't get to do the live showing this week. But those are our game picks. Let's see if we can run off, what was that, 6 games? Let's see if we can make this 21. If I get 21, man, I feel like I win. If I get all 6 of them right, that's a dub. And I guess I can go ahead and tell y'all my Super Bowl picks now, huh? I mean, before it all gets started, so I can't switch up. Well, obviously, I got the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. And then coming out the NFC, I know I talk really highly of the 49ers. I talk pretty okay about the Eagles. But everybody's picking the 49ers. And the 49ers got a great team. But what did I say earlier? If it was Brock Purdy versus Tom Brady, I'm going with that experience. I think we're getting the rematch in the Super Bowl of the Buccaneers versus the Chiefs, and we're going to get redemption against them this time because last time, Pat had to go in there with a bad offensive line, and this time, Brady's going to go in there with a bad offensive line, and we are going to get our redemption against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the Super Bowl. So that's my Super Bowl pick. Chiefs versus Buccaneers. I know that's there. I thought I said I didn't pick too many upsets in my game picks, but my Super Bowl is the upset. Buccaneers in the Super Bowl. Everybody have a great week. See y'all Tuesday at 7:30. Thank you so much for tuning in, and have a great night.